Yeah, Shellback Bow here. Heard that there is a Japanese setting TTRPG, a TTRPG setting set in feudal Japan. I think it's Grim Jim who's doing it. I don't know anything else about it. As you all know, I'm doing my own setting that's got some Japanese themes to it. And I have not looked into his stuff yet. I don't know if I'm going to because I don't want to muddy what I'm doing with other people's thoughts on the matter, what they've done. Like the way I see it, I've got options here. Option 0 is I don't look into his stuff at all. I don't look into what his qualifications are. What his background and association with Japan is. What his appendix N for the setting would be. I don't do any of that. Then option number 1, the first step would be to look into his background. His association with Japan and his appendix N for the setting. And see how much of it cross-pollinates with what I'm doing, and if I can pull some stuff from the same thing. Because maybe he's got contacts in Tokyo University or something that he's got helping him with it. And as you know, I've spent 10, 15 years, somewhere in there, 10 to 15 years here in Japan now. Most of my adult life has been either in Japan or on the ocean. So that's my inspiration for using Japan. I'm here soaking up the Japanese environment, and I like it. I like being in Japan. So step 1 would be just to pull from his appendix N and see what he's doing like that. See what his inspirations are for his setting. And then step 2, or option 2 would be to look at his Kickstarter, because I don't know what the name of his setting is. Something with crows. Fighting crows? Crows that fight? Maybe? I don't know. I just don't want to potentially pollute mine to the my own setting where he could come at me with you stole that idea from me. I'm like, if I don't look at his Kickstarter, if I don't look at his appendix N, then any ideas that we have and that we share is either because he somehow, which I know he wouldn't have, because while I've been putting them on YouTube, I've been putting stuff on YouTube since May. So there's no way that he would possibly taking my ideas, put them in his Kickstarter, and then built a Kickstarter in 6 weeks. That's just crazy. So I know he's not pulling for me, but maybe we have similar sources, similar appendix N's. But if I look at his Kickstarter and then I can start, maybe not even intentionally, I can start pulling ideas from it. And so on the one hand, I could pull some ideas. On the other hand, that may not be a good thing. So I'm not really willing to go that far. And then of course, option 3 would be to fund his Kickstarter, to back it, get his product, dig through his product, and then I'd be face down in the pigsty, smothered in mud. If someone's like, "Well, you pulled these ideas from him, clearly," well, yeah, because I read all of his material. Of course, there's the possibility, even if I tried not to, it might be a really good idea, and I could pull, or maybe a mechanic or something. There may be some really great stuff in there, and I just don't want to have that. If you don't go to McDonald's, you can't accidentally order a supersized meal or whatever it is. So that's my thoughts on that. speaking of other people's ideas and stuff, I was just looking at my bookshelf. I've got a really fun system. I'm not too big on some of the tied-in setting material, but the system is what's old is new. And so you have old, now, and new, and it's by Russ Morrissey of EN Publishing. And I know there's a lot of people who have issues with him, and my issue with him is not the stuff that everybody else's issues are, because I don't pay attention to that, and one of the books fell off the bookshelf. But my issue was that he stopped publishing it. He stopped producing some material for it because he switched over to 5e stuff, and he's got his own 5e variant. You know, one of the, what is it, 12, 20 different 5e variants. There's Nimble and DC20 and whatever he's doing, and I don't know. I don't pay attention to all that stuff. It's all still D20 based. But it's a pretty cool system. It has, you know, it's called What's Old is New, and so you have old, which is your fantasy environment. You have now, which is modern day. You know, kind of your pulp. He put I don't know if he had the IP. Maybe he had to shut it down because he was IP stealing. I'm not accusing him of anything, you know, just because he had what's that? Judge Dredd. He had Judge Dredd and Worlds of 2000 or something like that for a setting, and then but there's like Kung Fu monks and stuff in now, and then new is his sci-fi, and it's a, you know, it's in space. It's kind of a Traveler-esque setting, and I'm being very generic with these terms just to give you a broad brush painting. It's got some, you know, it's got a Klingon type race, and it's got a Vulcan type race, and it's got space dwarves, and you can build droids and android robot people in there, and all the systems share a luck attribute system, and then they also each have their own variant of the magic attribute. Old has magic, and then now has ki for the monks, martial artists, and then new has psi points or psionics. And so it's a well done system. I didn't like that he gave the high elves, or grand elves I think he called them, guns. And that's, I know he was trying to be unique or whatever, and he thought that was cool, and you know, whatever. But that just meant that I would have to go in there and change that if I wanted to use it for the fantasy. But I wasn't going to use it for, I wasn't running fantasy. I ran a short new campaign with the Xenomorph. There it is. The Xeno edition. I've got some equipment book, universal upgrades, advanced character options, and then there's the Xeno edition because it's based off of Alien, which is one of my favorite sci-fi settings. I absolutely love the Aliens setting, and so it's definitely got more Alien and Colonial Marines tech in there, and I've got a Xenomorph campaign setting guidebook of some sort. I don't remember what it's called, but it's around here somewhere. And so I use that as along with my own hyperspace mechanic that I built using David Weber's Honor Harrington hyperspace as inspiration. And so it was a mixture of how fast the speed of light and then hyperspace bands. And so there was a mixture of the two things. I had a whole chart that is around here somewhere. Yep, that's not it. But yeah, that's those are my thoughts. I really like the system. I wish Russ had stuck with it, and maybe he just couldn't for legal reasons. I was backing all of his stuff on Patreon because he had a what's old is new Patreon account, and I think his Universal Upgrades has a lot of stuff from there that he just kind of stuck in there. But there was like extra races and class stuff, and it's like it's based off of the I like the small books. But you choose your race or your kin or species or whatever they call it in here. And then you choose your background. And your background is like your location that you're from. So like, are you from Tatooine or a desert planet? Or are you from an agriculture world? Or are you from a hive world? Or are you from the wilderness or whatever? And that applies attribute bonuses. Your home world. So if you choose agriculture, your endurance goes up by 1, your logic goes down by 1, and you get a bonus skill of farming. If you're from an Arctic, you get +1 to endurance, -1 to agility. If you're from an asteroid, you get +1 to agility, -1 to strength. You know, Arctic gives you survival, asteroid gives you 0G or mining, you can choose which one. And then you go into careers, and they've got a whole list of careers. So on top of the home world, now you have origins, and you choose an origin, and then it has you, there's prereqs sometimes, like the Borean Apprentice requires you to be Borean, which is the Space Wars, and you roll a number of, you roll whatever the dice is, and most of these are 2d6, +6, or 1d6, so they have a cat folk in here called the Feline, and it's, so one of the origins is the Feline Scavenger, and it's 1d6 years, and that's, you add that to your race base age, and then after you get through the origin, you then go into your standard careers, and there's career grades, and so you have to meet the career grade before you can move on to the next career. And there's criminal careers, investigative careers, military careers. It's very similar to Traveler in that aspect. Psionic careers, vocational careers. And so you can choose, like, you want to go to academy, it costs you 3 years, and you get +1 agility, +1 logic, +1 will, and +1 charisma. And then your skill choices are carrying, pistols, rifles, leadership, law, scientific, technical, tactics, and starship tactics. And scientific and technical are groups of classes, so you have to specify which class or which skill you're learning. And it's just a military academy, and so you go through basic training, and then you can go for a second time, and you can choose command school, or branch specialization, or academy tutor, or academy professor. And the academy professor requires academy tutor. And then there's assassin, there's athlete, there's bartender, battle psych, or battle psyche, biopsychic. There's a whole bunch. But it's a really cool system. The rule set is really great. It has, it feels because it's a D6 dice pool with where you count where you count the dots. You don't count successes; you count the dots. And so it's pulling. Like, the influences are clearly West End Games, D6 Star Wars, and Traveller, and 3.5 are the three big ones that's how I feel from it. It's a really great system, but it's no longer in production as far as I know. And I stopped following him years ago when he stopped producing material for it, content for it. So if he started back up, I'm just not aware of it. And I don't follow people for 5e stuff because I don't want to do 5e stuff. So I don't know. I was going to work on some more Tide, but that didn't happen this week. You all know I get like 2 to 3 hours of sleep each night. Right now, I got 5 hours of sleep Thursday night, and then I got 6 hours of sleep Friday night, and it's Saturday now, so maybe I'll get another 6 hours of sleep tonight, or maybe I'll get a nap in here now. As far as an update, I've got, what's that, 65% of the bookshelf filled. I've got Pathfinder. I've got some random tables and system agnostic books there. I've got some random books that I haven't really organized anything. It's like history, and The Sailmaker's Apprentice is a book about, hopefully I'm showing this right, is teaching you how to do sailmaking. And then there's some theology and history and guidebooks. There's the Kobold Guide to whatever. Ghosts in the Japanese, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've got my second edition, my first edition, AD&D. I've got OSR, third-party products. Here's my 3.5 collection. I think I have more somewhere, but I don't know where the boxes of books are. They're somewhere downstairs. I just haven't gone looking for them yet. There's the What's Old is New, OSE. That's all OSE stuff. My 4 of the books for G.A. Henty, which if you have a son, as soon as they turn like 8, you should start getting these books for them. Some Battletech stuff, and then Hero System, and Volley and Bayonet, Savage Worlds, Star Wars, and some more books that are just kind of, they're not game books, they're just everything else. And then that stack is 5e, and those 3 stacks are Shadowrun, 4th edition, 5th edition, and supplements. And then this is a stack of books that I'm going to be getting rid of because they just either weren't what I was expecting, or they're like Sly Flourish's Lazy Dungeon Master book, which has no useful information for me in it. And of course I've got my Call of Cthulhu, my Forbidden Lands stacks over there that I just pointed out off screen so you couldn't see where I was even pointing at. And so there's a little bit of a tour of what's going on. There's some more books on top of the bookshelf. Oh, those are just notepads. There's some books. There's a Space for GURPS, and Ninjas and Super Spies for Palladium, and a Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game, which is completely different from the Game of Thrones by Sword and Sorcery with Guardians of the Order, or Guardians of Order, which is like a 2005 book. And yeah, well, I don't have anything else to talk about, so I'm gonna let you guys go, and you guys can just deal with the fact that there was no new information on the Ignited Dice engine or the Holy Byzantine Shogunate in here, other than the ramble about how I'm not gonna look at another guy's product so that I can't be accused of stealing ideas from him later.